Hello, everybody. Welcome to Santa Clara's The Roar podcast.
I'm Theodore Nguyen. I'm a sophomore at Santa Clara High School, and I'm a staff writer for The Roar.
I'm Nathaniel Hekster. I'm the alt media editor for The Roar, and I'm a junior at Santa Clara High School.
I'm Taejun Spencer. I'm a sophomore at Santa Clara High School, and I'm a staff writer for The Roar.
I'm Soojin Spencer. I'm a junior at CHS, and I'm an editor for The Roar. So, essentially, when high school students reach a certain age or a certain point in their coursework, they prioritize the grades and doing well in their courses over their own health and sleep. Over the course of one's high school career, it's often essential for them to do well in their classes, to deprioritize their own health and getting a healthy amount of sleep in every single night. We've noticed that there's been a correlation between taking advanced courses and a lack of sleep. There have been many impacts of this on people's health, and it's also impacted people's ability to do well in school and in their own home lives.
I'll say that one probably not root cause, but like additional cause to a lack of sleep is probably all the homework, because I've noticed that a lot of the homework that we get is just and instead of being actual homework, it's just tedious busy work, which can take a while if you're not engaged, and so that's probably relates to a lack of sleep and extracurricular activities as well.
So wait, so you said tedious busy work, right? Could you define that real quick? Like,
Oh.
what is tedious busy work for us?
It's like
Crosswords?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. For Spanish class. Doing a crossword puzzle does not help me know Spanish any better. It's just making me, look through it, and it's really annoying. For algebra 2, I just had the unit circle. If you don't know what that is, it's a trigonometry thing. So sine, cosine. In the long run, it's basically just a lot of memorization. And I just had 42 questions questioning about the what's the sine of 225 degrees? Like, yeah, I can look it up on the unit circle. It won't help me remember. It won't help me understand. So there's no real point to it.
So it's just unnecessary work.
Right.
I think more engaging work is what's important. A lot of teachers don't engage their students, so their students don't actually learn. I have that problem a lot myself. The teachers just give us busy work. I can't pay attention. I don't do well in class.
That's
You know,
true. Yeah.
I don't
I
actually
think that
remember things on tests.
Regardless of that, though, it's mainly extracurriculars because some people have to work jobs to help support their families.
Right.
Too.
Yes.
And in turn, that causes them to have an irregular sleep schedule, especially if they're working hours that are closer towards dinner time. That can throw off their REM sleep patterns if they have a lot of homework to do when they get back from school or like back from work or back from sports. And this really just creates like a vicious cycle in which they're constantly in the lack and deprivation of sleep, and they're trying to catch up on all their schoolwork. They're trying to do better, but because of the lack of sleep, they're unable to properly focus on school and properly apply themselves to their fullest ability.
Right. It's an ever repeating cycle until the weekend, and even then, you still don't get proper sleep.
Like even then, the weekends, right? You're just napping your whole way through the day, so like you're not even making a proper sleep schedule. Just like, how should I say it? Can I say like a drug addiction maybe? In a way, like I don't know. That was a really bad analogy. Yeah, but
You could just say
like,
addiction.
I don't
Addiction.
think it's an addiction.
It's not an
actually
addiction.
scientific. When your body gets used to going to bed at a certain time, your circadian sleep cycle it gets messed up, and you essentially go to bed at the same time every single night. You're used to going to bed in that time period, and trying to break that pattern is really difficult. So typically for students, it'll take you a couple of weeks to like fully get into a regular sleeping pattern where you're not going to bed at like 1 or 4 p.m. 4 a.m. You're going to bed at regular times like 10 to 12 a.m. And it's really difficult to do that. And even in summer break, a lot of students will notice that instead of going to bed earlier, they're actually going to bed later and sleeping in more. It's difficult to backtrack that cycle and get back on track of going to bed at 10 to 12 a.m.
Yeah, that really there should be a lot more emphasis from the school, particularly, but I mean, and just in general, because sleep is incredibly important. We see that the day after daylight savings, where we lose an hour, there are, I think something crazy, like 10% more car crashes and heart attacks. And then the day that we get an extra hour, 10% less. Now, I don't know if it's exactly 10%, but it's in that area. That, yeah, like like what you said, Soojin. We're getting into a sleep schedule. That's basically what that is. I mean, a sleep cycle. Uh, and as teenagers, on average, we have a tendency to want to go to bed later and wake up later. That is a thing. We just end up wanting biologically to wake up at around 10 and go to sleep later.
I can fully
Mhm.
attest to this because I actually do have a trouble with sleeping a lot.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
insomnia.
It's not really insomnia, more like I just can't bring myself to sleep earlier at sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then not also that procrastination is like a lot of issue within students,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes we just put a lot of stuff off until like the last minute, and then even then, like when we're finally finished, we just go to bed. Um, I think with procrastination, I think it's also just like a problem with what the teachers are assigning, because some teachers they just stack all the work on one day, and then you're like, oh, I can do this.
Oh, yeah.
I can put it off. And then on the day, I was like, oh crap, I need to do this. I need to do this. And you rush, and you drive late into the night just to get it done. And sometimes you don't even get it in on time, but you still want to do it just so you can get that
Great.
sense, yeah, that
Yeah.
sense of accomplishment at least.
One thing people forget is that no matter how much you delay work, you are going eventually to have to do it. And if you have time now, there's no good reason to not do it now.
Exactly. But the thing is, returning back to the topic of extracurriculars, sports, specifically being an athlete, a varsity athlete, is incredibly difficult with managing APs, honors, other extracurriculars, because essentially by the time I got home from some of my volleyball games, it was already 10 p.m., 10:30. Things were due at 11:59, and I didn't have the chance to work on them during the day because I was doing activities related to volleyball, like setting up games, reffing games, or just getting ready for games, like warming up. So it's really just such a time consuming thing. And it's really difficult to fully commit yourself to playing a sport and managing your coursework because it's difficult to switch between those modes of yourself where you're like, hey, it's time to play sports, it's time to warm up, it's time to get ready to do this,
Mhm.
versus it's time to sit down and focus and do my schoolwork and be an academic weapon. It's completely different. Like it's difficult to manage all those things. And for me, I rely upon sleep to help me concentrate. Like that's a basic human function. And when I'm not sleeping, which is typically during volleyball season, it's hard for me to just sit down there like on the gym floor and do my homework because I lack concentration.
Mhm.
So I usually just push into the late hours of the night and do all my work. But it's kind of miserable, like being able to like find a steady location to do your work and managing all these sports and having to switch between these different mindsets.
Mhm.
Now here's the thing: do you get the chance to at least have a dinner, like when you come home, or at least like during the volleyball games?
Okay, no dinner at all because that
Damn.
would probably cause me to throw up on the court. But
Yeah.
when I get home, I have dinner 3 hours or 4 hours after Taejun.
Damn.
So
Yeah.
it's like essentially
So
whatever's
it's 2 hours.
available, 2 hours maybe.
One, 2
But
hours.
it's late. It's not
Right.
like a normal eating schedule either.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
honestly, I do it for the experience and I do it because it's a great thing to be involved in high school sports. But I can understand why it's so difficult for some students to get their work in on time because of all these over consuming extracurriculars and time consuming extracurriculars.
Especially when you get home from all these extracurriculars. If you're going to the job, you come
Yeah.
home, you're tired. You don't want to do your work.
Exactly.
You want to sit down,
Exactly.
eat, watch
Exactly.
TV. You don't want to do anything.
Like at that point, when you're just home, the only thing you want to do is sit on the couch, laze around, and just at least maybe get a
Right.
little bit of rest.
Mhm.
Like at that point, you're not even caring for yourself, like food, hygiene and whatnot. It's just my body is dead. I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
And
I can't tell you how many migraines I've had to work through just to study for a test or like do my homework. And I can't tell you how many times when I don't have homework, I like crash out on the floor of my bedroom and have to take like a bedroom floor nap because I don't want to shower. and I'm tired.
Yeah, well, I have this one friend that just joined track and field, and will next year become the leader of gardening club and a bunch of other activities and stuff like that. And I've known this friend since last year, so it's my sophomore year, and so they had time after school this year, but nowadays it's a lot less because of those finals and stuff. And last year they had time after school, but next year they keep predicting I'm not gonna have time after school. They keep saying and stuff like that is it's really sad because I like this guy. He's cool and fun, right? But I can't spend time with the man because he's too focused on all the extra crap he signed up for and has to if he wants to realistically get into a college, which is really annoying. One of my other friends had a job and was able to balance it pretty well, but I'm seeing it start to affect their life at home as well, and because they have to participate in the family income or they just want their own. It's really depressing, right? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
how old are we? We're 17, 16, 14.
Yeah.
We should have way more free time
Right.
than this. And I feel like a lot of the time that we're spending in school is just completely and utterly wasted. And whereas we're not even moving towards an academic goal. It's just
I mean,
frustrating.
It
A
is
lot of-
sad, yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of the students that take AP and honors courses, I think they don't emotionally get along as well as other people
Really, I find that to be the complete opposite.
because they don't get as much time to interact with people.
Oh,
They
that's
just have
right.
lunchtime.
I don't
That's it.
think that's true.
I'm not sure about
I've
that.
taken 4 APs this year so far,
Dang.
and honestly, the people I've met in my AP classes have been more sociable because they've been through like difficult situations and they're able to negotiate and also like deal with like hardships. But I also think that being in an AP course, it's also like a bonding experience because you're all going through that same work collectively. You all ask each other for the homework answers, or like, hey, can I study with you during this time, or can I
Right.
do this with you like this time? It's like it's hard to explain, but from what I've recognized, the people in AP courses have been fairly sociable, and they're actually particularly well involved in school. So I don't find it to be that they're not sociable, but I do agree with you that they likely have less time at home to like bond with their family or with their siblings.
I think what I meant to say was like emotionally stable.
What do you
I
mean
mean,
by
I
that?
like
mean-
you don't have time to interact with people. You only interact with people in your class. You have
So you mean,
lunchtime.
like, those
If
classes
you
are,
if you
like,
if you have a lot
emotionally
of stuff
taxing.
going on, you go to your job. Maybe you talk with like people at your job, but they're not really your friends, are they?
You mean like
I-
those things are emotionally
doubt
taxing?
that. I mean, okay, yeah, I understand emotionally taxing, I understand
Mhm.
draining, but
Sure.
I think that it really depends on whether if you're introvert or extrovert. It does not depend on whether how many AP courses you're taking. I think it's dependent on how you treat others or like how sociable you are as a person.
Mhm.
And I don't want to make broad generalizations, but the majority of people I met in AP courses, they have been particularly well socialized people. They're very sociable, they're very outgoing and extroverted. But I think that extroverted people, they naturally just make friends, like anywhere they go.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a thing in a very well known factor to a lot of plane crashes, for those of you who don't know, I'm entering into the aviation world. I'm trying to study for all that kind of stuff, and one common thing I see with a lot of plane crashes is that one or both of the pilots were suffering from fatigue. There was this one example where there is this small, like little regional plane that was supposed to that was approaching this really difficult runway. There was no instrument landing system. They had to do it on the basis of increments of time and altitude and speed. It was really difficult, and they crashed. They kept descending. They should have stopped at a certain level, but didn't. Kept going through and just ran themselves into the floor. And what happened was both pilots had stayed up late. One of them was emotionally distressed. Was on a phone call or something with their wife and heard some bad news. The other one, I am not joking, was up doing cocaine and sex
Damn.
and had like 2 hours of sleep. The next day, still under the influence of drugs, still extremely tired.
Oh, this is
When-
like
Yeah,
really.
well, we're not gonna. So two of those things don't apply to students, but we operating under a little amounts of sleep has very bad effects on not only reaction time, but your decision-making abilities, your
Emotional state.
emotional state, being able to attack stuff.
Yeah.
There's an acronym, I'm safe, and whenever you fly, you have to name all those things. A few of the things you need to take in consideration that may affect your ability to do things are illnesses, medications, stress is a very big one, alcohol, but that doesn't apply to us, fatigue, and emotions, which all, have a very negative effect on our
Mhm.
ability to do things.
Okay, returning back to a more local level with high school students, specifically, sleep deprivation has been shown to actually worsen mental health issues. There's like a significant link between normal healthy people and having increased anxiety or depression due to a lack of sleep. Um, while insomnia is a mental health problem and it's typically linked to depression or anxiety, a lack of sleep can worsen this. It can make you have increased suicidal thoughts, and it can also increase the risk for mental health disorders. So, by failing to get a proper night's of good rest, you're actually making it more difficult for you to be mentally healthy and making it more difficult for your body to fully recover.
One important thing with sleep, because like you said, Sujin, is it sleep? If you look in the DSM-5, which is basically called the Big Book of Mental Disorders,
Okay.
comorbidities for almost every mental disability or disorder is a lack of sleep. Now, for every condition, it's different, but it definitely doesn't help. And yeah, we mentioned before we started recording that um, like not sleeping or sleeping is when your brain regenerates, right? It's when it repairs itself, when it cleans itself up.
When it
REM
regenerates
sleep,
cells.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like sleeping is literally when your skin cells regenerate. It's when your hair goes long. It's when your body is able to regulate the foods that you've eaten for the day, regulate your appetite, make sure that everything's going well, that your hormones are regulated. And by failing to properly sleep, you're making your body work twice as hard to stay healthy.
You're most literally dying while awake.
yeah. If you like Taejun said before recording, if you get 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day, or is that what you said, 6 to 8?
Six to eight.
Or
Yeah.
Past 9 is actually also dangerous.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
I assume for some people. But
Really?
that's not.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be the norm. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
It's 6 hours. Anywhere from 6 hours to 9 hours.
I
Okay.
mean,
Getting
that's
kind of
true.
on top, guys.
32% increased heart rate or heart attack in their lifelines.
Yeah,
I
and
see.
also it increases the risk for diabetes, all these other things. It affects your heart and circulatory systems, your immune system, a nervous system, your brain, and like I mentioned earlier, mental health. It just has so many negative effects because sleep is essentially when your body regenerates. It's when your body gets healthy. It's when your body is able to regulate itself. And just not sleeping, it's horrendous. It has horrendous impacts. And I'm a bit of a hypocrite saying this myself because I don't get much sleep, but it's really a question of whether it's really a question of what you prioritize. And there's an issue if you're prioritizing your grades or academics or your extracurriculars over getting over getting a healthy amount of sleep that allows your body to regulate itself.
A
Yeah.
prime example is men who only sleep 6 hours or less or 9 hours or more, which have 1.7 times the death rate of men sleeping 7 or 8 hours. a night.
Yikes! Wow.
And if
Wow.
you're a guy, I know there's something like deep in the genetics that makes it make you more likely to have a heart attack. So you guys gotta watch out more. Another thing is, like Soojin was saying, yeah, it's a matter of prioritization. I think in all circumstances, your own health should be on top, or another person's health. But if you care about them, but I think
Right.
health has got to be up there. And it's great if you can, but a lot of the time, school puts us in a corner where we're not able to do that kind of stuff if you want to have a successful life. And
Right.
that sucks. At that point, it's not as much your fault if you're doing everything that you can
Yeah.
and still falling behind, because like I said, school really doesn't do the best with some students.
I think it's the pressure that gets to you because you're
Oh
being
boy.
yeah. I mean, because you're being pressured. With all these extracurriculars, with all these clubs, with all these classes, you're pressured. You want to succeed. So you put your health aside to take all these courses just to feel better. I mean, not to feel better, but to be better in life, even though you're worsening your life now. So yeah.
Yeah, but some people don't really see it that way. Like, I don't really see it that way. I know it's not a good healthy thought or healthy thought pattern to have, but I feel like it's difficult for a lot of high school students to hear all these effects on their bodies, but there's still something in the end goal. Like, they're still getting all this, they're getting a lot of accolades, they're getting a lot of experience from taking all these courses, from doing all these from doing all these extracurriculars. So it's hard just hearing from people that, you know what, getting no sleep isn't healthy. Like, it's causing all these things in the long run because you're focused on what's happening on the short run. You're focused on what your goals are currently. You're not focused on what your health is going to be like 10 years down the line. And I think that doing this podcast, I hope that other high school students will hear from high school students directly who have had these experiences, why not getting sleep is unhealthy, and why, if you're not receiving enough sleep, there's an issue with prioritization in your own life. This is Soojin Spencer, and I'm signing off.
This is Theodore Nguyen. I'm signing off.
Nathaniel Hekster, signing off.
This is Taejun Spencer signing off.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that bell. Subscribe for more notifications. And follow scroar.net. And take care, folks. Take care.
Reach.